Så då går vi vidare med den sista presentationen för idag. And this will also be a presentation that will be held in English. And I suppose I leave the stage over for you, Gustav, CEO of PILA PHARMA. Please,
Thank you
welcome.
very much. I actually wasn't sure that I was the last one, but it's nice to hopefully give everyone something interesting to go home with. Let's see how we all feel. So my name is Gustav. I am the CEO of PILA PHARMA. Some of you may know what we do, but if not, I can just briefly summarize that we are developing a novel sort of oral treatment, so pill treatment for type 2 diabetes and obesity. So a very, very lucrative segment, of course, as we've all gotten to know in the last couple of years. And we hope we've come up with a solution that is very differentiated to what else is out there. And hopefully I can explain a little bit as to why we think we have an interesting case here. So I think I would like to start with just addressing, the issue in the world, right? I'm sure everyone here in this room knows that diabetes has for long been a very, very prevalent problem on a global stage, and it is a very costly disease to treat because of all the comorbidities that these diseases are associated with. Now, what is interesting is to see that now obesity as a disease is actually coming through as well. It's being designated as a disease by medical authorities in more and more countries around the world. And of course, that means that you also have a market for obesity treatments. We have seen in the last 3 or 4 years how Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly have come through with these GLP-1 analogs, which are very, very potent injectable solutions that can really, really lower people's body weight to a very extreme degree. In many cases, that is a good thing because you actually make people's lives better. But what we can conclude is also that the world is still becoming more obese for various reasons. We still have rising rates of diabetes across the globe, double-digit or triple-digit, depending on which area of the world you're looking at. And even now, in a market that has gone from 0 to 25 billion in 4 years, and where these companies are producing 100% of what they can actually do, the market is only addressed to around 2% of the entire patient population, as we could call it. So there's a major unmet need out there for new treatments. And we believe, as well as many others, that in order to really address the scale and the volume in the market, you need to have a solution that is oral. And maybe this is a little bit difficult to see, and my apologies for that, but it's just to showcase that this is not just a duopoly anymore. Where it was once the two big guys that you see on the top, Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly, we now see a whole range of companies coming through developing all kinds of new products. Of course, it goes without saying that not all of them will make it all the way through. These are all going through the different clinical trial stages. But we do see a very rife activity, both in terms of licensing agreements, but also whole acquisitions of these types of companies. So there's an appetite in the market, if we can say so. And of course, that's very interesting for a company like ours, because we as a small company with one asset, we of course would also like to see that we could potentially achieve a partnership down the line. Now, what is interesting and what is different, for example, from a year ago when I presented last time, is that we see that the market in general is trending towards increasingly looking at oral opportunities. So nowadays, this is the newest report that I could find from December, 43% of all drugs in development for obesity is now oral. That used to be a lot higher for injectables. What we also see is that the light blue color corresponding to representing GLP-1 analogs is diminishing very fast. And that's not because there's not more GLP-1s coming through or in development, but it's just to say that there are so many more pathways being explored for treatment of these diseases. And you see combination treatments now where GLP-1 is combined with something else. In general, what we do see is that there's a sentiment in the industry that the code has been cracked. We know how to lower people's body weight to a very large degree. So now the race is on to find a solution that can be both scaled, but equally so can deliver weight loss, perhaps in a better way than what is currently being available. Just to refer to a few of the deals that we've seen recently, these are two Danish companies actually that have managed to get really big upfront agreements with two players that have traditionally not been in the obesity or in the diabetes space. And I think that goes to show that we are seeing a market now that is really shaping up to be dominated by not just two, but potentially very many different big pharma companies that all want a share of this cake. Like I said, I think for 2024, the market was estimated at $25 billion. The latest research I've seen suggests that we will be far beyond $100 billion in 2030, so only in 5 years. And of course, that means that all these companies are looking at opportunities now for how their pipeline should look in the 2030s. Now, we are working in our company, we are working with what's called a TRPV1 inhibitor. So that is a molecule that will effectively block the TRPV1 receptor, which is found on all sensory nerves throughout the body. In this particular slide, you can see that we, or at least our founder Dore, she has performed a rat study in a soccer rat model, which is very traditional for studying effects of drugs in obesity. And while it may be a little bit difficult to decipher at first, this particular drug shows that in 2 different dose levels, you could prevent body weight gain in rats. And that sounds a little strange, but it has actually been translated to body weight loss once you've tried the same drugs in GLP-1s. So that gives us reason to believe that our drug may perform the same way. But I need to emphasize that this is not our molecule. This is a very similar molecule in chemical structure, but it's not ours. So this is, of course, something that we are interested in, and is also something that we see continuously from partnership prospective companies, that they're asking for us to generate weight loss data. They are coming to us now in more numbers than we have witnessed in the past, and we can see that there's really a big interest in positioning into this market, and preferably with something that's very different than what else is out there. So we have gone back to our board of directors, and we have said we think we might need to assess whether our drug could work in obesity as a standalone. We have traditionally done trials in diabetes. Of course, when you have diabetes, you likely have overweight as well. But what the big pharma companies are requesting is to have data in a pure obese population, so no other diseases. And so we've looked at, for example, the 2 companies that I presented deals from before. We looked at how they've done it. And the way they've done it is that they've basically done a proof of concept trial in a preclinical model, so the rats. That has allowed them to basically say whether or not it works in terms of reducing body weight. Then they've been able to patent their technology, and they've been able to send in a clinical trial application and commence a phase 1b/2a trial in humans, where after they've, of course, managed to get really good results, and thereby that allowed them to do very good deals with big pharma companies. So this is something that we are now firmly in the planning of, like to assess whether or not we could potentially do something similar. And we believe that may be the fastest way forward for us to get to a stage where we have a package that would be attractive to pharma. And I think that goes without saying it would be very nice to get a deal with a pharma company, especially at these times with the funding climate here in Sweden. So as we see it right now, we propose to have a product that is vastly differentiated to what else is on the market. What we see is that you have quite a few products currently marketed as injectables. These are, of course, very, very good at reducing body weight, but they also come with quite a few side effects, mainly gastrointestinal issues, such as nausea, diarrhea, constipation, vomiting, which is, of course, not so great. There's one oral solution on the market, but the same side effects apply to this. Given that we are targeting something completely different that is not gut-related in the same way, we don't foresee that we will have any gastrointestinal issues to the same degree, at least. And of course, we believe that having an oral solution is a very big advantage in the way that the market will shape up in the coming years, where from every player that we talk to, we hear the same. The market will fragment. We will see many more combination treatments. We will see more oral treatments coming through. And there will be a lot of different subpopulations of patients that will have different needs. So my advice, and to what I do myself as well, is to have a stake in many different companies. It's not just the 2 big ones, but it could potentially be companies like us, but also others. So the drug that we work with is a TRPV1 inhibitor. It is called XEND-0501, very nice and easy to pronounce, as I always say. And it's in a very stable tablet formulation that allows it to basically be produced and then shipped, stored, whatever you want to do for a minimum of 5 years. That's the stability test that we have here on the right, which shows that there's basically no degradation over 5 years. So that's of course very good if you want to have a solution that is globally scalable. Then you should have a solution that is very flexible in a sense. We took over this drug from another biotech company that had done other studies in other diseases. We managed to get the drug quite cheap, but it also means that the drug has been in human trials in the past. So there's quite a lot of safety data related to this particular drug. And it has been dosed in about 300 humans already. And we have conducted 2 clinical trials in people living with overweight and diabetes. So we have quite a bit of data on the safety in diabetic population, but also we also have some efficacy data, which is very promising because it means we're on the right way. I will just run through TRPV1 very quick. It is this is the target we work with, of course, but this is a sensory nerve that is found. It is found on sensory nerves throughout the body. So we believe we can have a whole body effect potentially. We could potentially downregulate inflammation all the way out in the periphery, but equally so on the organs. And that would, of course, be very, very interesting to see. I'm not sure what happened to the formatting here, but I think you get the idea that we compared to the other drugs on the market that currently mostly try to address hunger signaling to the body, and therefore patients eat less and then lose weight. We think as well that we might have a drug that could also affect the energy expenditure. So potentially you could have a weight loss that would be a little bit more healthy in a way. What we see and what we hear is that there's a lot of attention around the quality of the weight loss as to what percentage of the weight you lose that is fat mass, but equally so muscle mass. And we believe, the trend in the industry is going towards solutions that will target pathways that can generate leaner weight loss. So you retain your muscle mass, but you lose your fat mass. And I'll just click through this very quick. Again, I mentioned before, we have some data on diabetes. It is primarily just to show that we're on the right path. We don't think we have data that is strong enough for a partnership, because both because of the duration and because of the dose levels that we used. What we do see is that we see nice improvements on insulin secretion. We see a very nice reduction in the risk of developing heart failure. And we also see a trend for reduction in long-term blood sugar, which is an important parameter in the diabetic population. And you also see a nice improvement in a glucose response test. And this is based on the trial we ran some years ago, where patients were dosed for only a month. So inconclusive, but it shows we're on the right path. And we have a lot of safety data on the drug, of course. So we have a nice scientific advisory board. Some of you may know Bo Rehn, who's a very famous diabetes expert here in Sweden, but otherwise Jens Schulholst, of course, is one of the discoverers of GLP-1. So he's extremely famous in diabetes and obesity circles, I would say. And we're very happy to have them on our scientific advisory board to help us navigate in this very interesting time. Small management team with myself, Hampus, and Dore. Dore is, of course, our founder and chairman, so we have a very tightly knit operation that we run. But I think that's very necessary at these times. Board of directors, I would say, I would primarily highlight members like Julian Lesse, who both come from a big pharma background. They help us a lot in terms of understanding what it takes to drive products from mid-stage to the point where you can actually launch them on the market. They have been with Eli Lilly, Sanofi, Novo Nordisk, and done many launches in the past. So their perspectives are very useful for us when we go through these later stages, hopefully. And just to say, and I know this is a bit difficult to decipher, but Dore and myself, we're Danish, so we've been exposed to the hype around Novo Nordisk and Gubra and Zealand for a long time. And I think maybe the Swedish awareness around obesity drugs came a little bit later. So I'm very sorry if all of you have come late to the party in that sense. But I think what we mean to say with this is that at least since the last 6 months, since the presidential election in the US, obesity drugs as a sector has been a little bit depressed. What I would like to highlight at least is that in the middle, you find us. So we're not worst. I think that's always good to remark. This is, of course, compared to some large cap companies. And I think it's definitely trending now towards a rebound in a way. Everyone in the industry acknowledges that this market will just grow to beyond comprehension, to multiple hundreds of billions of dollars yearly. And there's room for so many players in this field. So I just want to say that I think, if anything, now is a good time to get into obesity drug stocks, perhaps, and whether that's us or whether that's some other companies, that will be up to you. So just to summarize, we have a major unmet medical need, huge market. We have an internal ambition to build a data package now that can facilitate us actually getting to a place where we can make a partnership or make an acquisition. Let's see. We have quite a unique TRPV1 asset, which is, to our knowledge, we're the only ones working on this specific target. So we have the potential to be we have a nice potential first mover advantage here. We have a nice and experienced scientific advisory board, as well as a very good team. And of course, seeing if we can get things started on pure obesity trials, then we would see quite a few potential triggers in only 1 to 2 years for a company. So with that, I would like to thank you. And if there's any questions, we can have them. Otherwise, we'll call it a day. But I think that's it. Yep. Yeah,
great. Thank you so much for that presentation. We actually have some time for questions, okay. So no worry. Well, as you stated it at the end of your presentation, we know that equities now and then move in and out of favor.
Yeah.
And now the biotech companies within the diabetes and obesity sector has been extreme volatility that we've seen over this last year.
It's not just the biotechs, it's the pharmas as well.
Yeah.
I mean, even the big ones are having really volatile times.
Exactly. We've seen it all over the place. How do you feel that this has affected the market that you operate in?
I feel it's given a little bit of uncertainty, at least in the dialogue with investors.
Yeah.
I think investors sort of get cold feet sometimes when not even the big ones are very stable anymore. So it's politics aside, of course. I think it would be good to just have a little bit more calmness and maybe a bit. In Danish we say ice in the stomach, right?
Yeah.
You need to take it a bit slow. Just take a breath and
easy magen.
Yeah, exactly. So in that sense, it's been difficult. Of course, it means that people are maybe a bit more reluctant to finance companies that are small or maybe not generating revenue.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that of course makes it difficult.
Yeah. Do you feel that the competition in the area has increased in response of this on and off interest? Or how do you see the dynamic in
No, I think it's an expansive mindset that is around. It's not so much about competing with each other. Of course, you have the GLP-1 products maybe competing for the same prescriptions now because they're the only ones marketed. But I think now there's an expansionist mindset among every company out there to find different pathways, different ways to target different receptors that could generate, let's say, a better profile on liver disease or kidney disease or heart disease or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Everyone acknowledges that this market will fragment. There will be a ton of tiny different patient populations that needs a very specific product. So that's the direction things are going in. And I think from our point of view, I think it's good because we have a target that is not validated yet when it comes to reducing body weight. But if we can manage to do that, then we're in a very unique position to do it. And then the interest is already there. We've already made the connections. We go out once in a while to talk to pharma, and the interest is there. They just want to see weight loss data.
Yeah, I see. I suppose that source financing takes quite a lot of work of yours. Besides that, currently, what do you think are like the main hurdles that you have to overcome?
I think for any company listed on First North, financing is the main problem. I think everyone has a ton of ideas that they can execute on if they had the cash in the bank. So of course that's also a limiting factor for us. We have an extremely supportive investor base that really sees the value in what we're trying to do. They understand that diabetes is maybe becoming an area that is almost getting consumed into obesity. So of course there's a need for us to assess the effects of our drug in obesity. So generally speaking, of course, we use some time on financing discussions, but we also try to see how we can, how can we be different?
Yeah.
Not just then the competition in our sector in obesity drugs, but ultimately, the main competition for us is fighting with other small companies for the same money.
Okay, I see. Yeah. How do you differentiate yourself?
In what way? Against other companies?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I mean, I think we try to take a different approach. We try to be a bit more open-minded as to what let's say digital-centric approaches can we do.
Yeah.
We try to, of course, position ourselves in podcasts in different countries, radio shows. We do. It's not just doing press releases or presenting with you all the time. It's actually getting out in different channels and see if we can expand the awareness around the company and ultimately, build the investor base, hopefully strengthen the cap table, and thereby also be able to raise the capital that is needed down the line.
Fair enough. Addressing financing, you have, I think, 3 ongoing drug candidates, if I'm not wrong.
Same drug candidate, but we have different indications we assess them in. Yeah.
Okay, I see. What are your short and long-term strategy of financing these?
Yeah, so I would say we have, of course, I didn't take our pipeline slide with us today, but we have one drug that we are assessing in a couple different indications. So we have obesity, diabetes, which is the big one, which is basically phase 2 ready in the sense of we can go directly to humans. Then we have an orphan project for a painful disease where we have an orphan drug designation in the US, which is of course very interesting and lucrative. This is a project that we feel is not for us to take on. We are of course trying to out-license it if we can find partnership interest for this. And we also we have a third project with a cardiovascular disease where we did a project up here in north of Stockholm in Uppsala in the winter, where we conducted a small preclinical study in a rat model that showed a very nice and profound effect on the drug in this disease called aorta aneurysm, where we could effectively see that it really decreases the dilatation of the aorta, which was very significant. So that data is not published yet. That means it's very difficult for us to go out and do partnership discussions on it.
Of course.
But it is equally like the painful condition. It's something we see as a partnership opportunity. I don't think it is something we would drive internally. Our focus is on obesity. That's where we feel like we have the expertise, and we also feel that is what the investors are looking to capitalize on.
I see. And regarding the financing strategy, what options do you have, and what do you see is most appropriate during this climate?
We cannot rely on the chance of getting a partnership, right? So we always assess and we talk to current investors. How do they see things? We always assess whether there's appetite for conducting, let's say, directed issues. In the past, we've often tried to avoid doing rights issues because we feel the market is really in a state where it doesn't actually benefit the company to do rights issues, even if shareholders should have the right to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's a balancing act. I think we always really try to take care of investors' interests and the values of not just current investors, but also people who invested maybe 2, 3, or 5 years ago. Okay. So in that regard, I mean, we keep all options open, but we are, of course, we're in a position like many other companies where sometimes you need the cash and maybe it's not available, and then you have to take some decisions. Yeah,
I see. It will be very interesting to follow your journey from here. We have to end the discussion there. Thank you so much, Gustav, CEO of PILA Pharma.
Yes, thank you.